I'm Katie Dean, an entrepreneur and successful business owner. What does it really mean to manage a business effectively? Is it what you learned in business school? The latest and greatest gimmicks online? I'm on a mission to talk to successful entrepreneurs from around the world about the system they've used to boom their businesses in a wide variety of industries. Welcome to EMA Evolutionaries, Success at Work. Hi, Art.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
Sure, thanks.
I'd like to start out by having you tell us about your business.
Well, my business is fundamentally helping others to grow in their business and in their life.
It sounds like you do consultant work?
Well, yes, I've been coaching executives for a half a century.
Wow.
So I used to say 50 years, but half a century really sounds like a lot more. It was an accident. I was doing kind of marketing work, and my mother used to tell me that I've never met an enigma that I didn't love. And I was out with the producer of Hair, I should tell you how old this is, and he was explaining a problem. And I took a napkin, because I had just started studying Hubbard and the Hubbard Management System. And I started diagramming something, which is the organizing board. It's a way of organizing. And I said, look, here's what's really happening. And I laid it all out. And he looked at it and he said, oh, wow, can I have that napkin? I said, yeah, be my guest. And I didn't think anything of it, except a week later I got a call. And they said, we showed your napkin to the various people, and they want to hire you as a coach, as a consultant. I said, well, I don't know. I don't know, but they flew me to Chicago, and I sat down and I listened to everybody and I wrote my report. And I'll never forget this, Katie. So they gave me my check, and on the plane, I kept staring at the check. And I thought, this is interesting. You help people and they pay you. And that was it.
Wow. That's such a cool story.
Yeah, thanks.
When did you discover the Hubbard Management System, and what was it like implementing it into your life and what you were doing?
Well, I was already doing some marketing work, as I explained, and some management, but it was very eclectic. A little bit here, a little bit there. There was no system. And my stress level showed that. And then I picked up a book and I read something Hubbard had written about coordination. And he said coordination is the essence of management. The essence of management. So I started reading a little further, a little more, and I realized, what do you know? This is a system. This is a coordinated whole. And if you follow the rules of the system, then things are easier. So to me, it became laws. See, the laws of management. And of course, I eventually wrote a book on it. But if you follow the laws, things are easier. And the only trouble I ever got into is if I violated some known or unknown laws, which is why it's so important for people who are doing work now of any kind. And that, by the way, includes parenting, that includes managing your life. There are certain rules. It's kind of like gravity, If you work with gravity, it'll take you to the moon. But if you resist it or you don't know about it, you could fall off a ledge and hurt yourself.
What is the Hubbard Management System meant for you personally? I want to see from you a before and after in your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The difference between confusion and disorder to control. Now, that's not to say that I can control everything, but if I can't control it, because of the Hubbard Management System, I can find out how I can, and that's huge.
That's actually one of the biggest parts of the Hubbard Management System that I think gets underplayed, is that if you don't know how to fix it, then you could never take responsibility for it, which is, I think, a little bit of a crutch for some businesses. Like, they're like, oh, well, I didn't know, so it wasn't my fault. But that's, like you said, the beauty of the Hubbard Management System is that if you have the know-how of how to correct it, then you can fail, which is actually not that bad of a thing, and then get stronger and better.
Exactly.
What other systems have you used in the past? Did you notice a big difference between those and the Hubbard Management System?
Yes, I did. And, growing up through all the various gurus and management gurus and all of that, I've read most of them. But they were filled with a lot of opinions. And even the good ones were histories of what companies worked. As an example, good to great. The problem is, if you go back to those books and you examine those companies, many of them failed. So was it because of a strong personality? Was it the timing? The company came in at the right time and therefore it was hard for them to fail. And the real security, and I guess that's the difference, Katie, the security you get by knowing that you do 2 and 2 and you're going to get 4, it enables you to really go forward full thrust.
Tell me about your plans for the future. How does the Hubbard Management System fit in?
Infinite. Again, when you have a certain amount of certainty, when you know what the rules are, you can move things much faster. Right now, I'm completing the audio book for my book on public speaking. I have another book that I'm writing on business ethics, which is sorely needed. And I'm setting up my tours of Europe, which I do every year for many months.
Wow. So you go to Europe and you're helping other people put in the Hubbard Management System into their businesses?
Yeah. Companies and associations bring me over there to speak to their audience and bring the Hubbard Management System to their recognition and so that they can utilize it. I mean, really, that's what I do. And I often tell people that I have a secret. And the secret is that I would do it even if you didn't pay me, you see. But, we have to have exchange.
All right, I won't let the secret out.
Yeah, thank you.
If someone's thinking about implementing the Hubbard Management System into their business, what advice would you give them?
I would begin with the understanding that there's rules and tools, and the desire to have them, and making sure you don't put your own barrier there, like a pessimism or I don't really believe there's really a way. Those are barriers that you have to get through. And I would certainly take a look at EMA, the Effective Management Association, which would provide a lot of starter level materials on an introduction to the Hubbard Management System. And if I may, The Natural Laws of Management, which is one of the books I've written, which is 197 pages of Hubbard management technology.
So the Hubbard Management System has been around since the 1950s, which I don't think a lot of people know. Mm-hmm. And L. Ron Hubbard was the founder of this technology. He passed away in the 1980s, mm-hmm. But you were fortunate enough to actually study under him. And you had some one-on-one experiences as far as I know. Mm-hmm. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was electrifying. The insight that I saw, and if I had to come away with one thing, otherwise, I could talk about his work all day long, but one thinks when you see the immense amount of output and the immense amount of quality work that he's done and helped millions of people, how did that happen? How did he do that? And by being with him, I recognized a facet that answered that question to me. And that was the level of care. It was, to me, in my opinion, it was put out there because here's a way to do this that'll make your life simpler, more effective, and I'm putting it out there. And it's shocking to people to see the immense amount of materials that he has put out towards helping others grow. And that's really the biggest factor, is this real care.
It seems that you learned from him that helping others and actually caring about them and their well-being and how they can expand was a key factor in how you then continued your growth on this journey.
Well, yes, but it was amplified. I already had it. If I didn't have it, I can promise you I would not have been with him. right? You sort of qualify from the fact that you have this desire to help others, but it was amplified, it was encouraged, and I realized I was on the right road. And there was another factor too, which was my attention got completely away from money, attention, or anything. It went strictly on, how can I help? How can I help? Because I had the confidence or the faith or the belief or whatever you want to call it, that you can do well by doing good.
To be in line with the Hubbard Management System, that is one of the main fundamentals that you, as a business, you have to be wanting to do well. Like, there's the intention to create something that's good and that you're helping others within any business that's using the Hubbard Management System technology. Otherwise, it won't work.
Exactly.
It actually won't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's based upon the foundation of a very key principle within the Hubbard Management System, which is exchange. That you put out something valuable, you get a whole lot valuable back. And that's the game.
This plays into what you were already saying, but what do you feel as an entrepreneur? Like, you're here in society, let's say you already have a successful business. How do you feel that the role of then helping others plays into being an entrepreneur? Do you feel like, okay, every business owner should feel obligated to help?
Well, definitely not obligated from the view of I have to do this. You know, help is kind of like, I term it the joyful obligation. It is an obligation. If you can help someone, in my view, you should do that. You have to do that, if I can use that word. But it's a joyful obligation. It's not something that you carry as a burden, you see. But there's also with it what is needed in this current society. And when I say society, I mean the business community, ethics. Without integrity, everything falls apart. I don't care if the company grows and grows and grows. If there's integrity missing, then it falls apart, and that's what happens. So you have this integrity factor, you have the quality of your product, and you have the desire for people to receive that product. I'm driven from the idea that I know I can help, and when I see someone who is trying and needs that help, I will be extremely persistent to make that happen. And that's how you get growth. Growth does not happen kind of on its own, you know? It sort of reminds me of like a marriage where people think like you sprinkle some magic dust, you know, and then it just grows. Man, it's work. And it's the same with a business. You create that business, you work at it, and you do things for the right reasons. Why do you want the stats up? Oh, I got to get the stats up. I can make money. No. Statistics represent how much you're helping. So when those stats go up, it should represent the amount of help that you're providing to society. And you get that in return.
And you're right, there's a lot of businesses out there that don't have that as a part of their natural attitude. They are just thinking dollar signs or how can we triple, how can we, you know, whatever it is, grow at the speed that they want to, but they're not necessarily thinking with, okay, how is my product helping somebody else? How are my employees benefiting from me putting more organization in and having a saner business model and just like work ethic, work-life balance being there, all of that. So,
Right.
Yeah, I agree. That's a huge part that's missing. So you met Mr. Hubbard as you were studying under him and you guys were together. Were there any bits of the administrative technology that you saw or heard and you immediately applied within the administrative technology?
Absolutely. And things that I use in my business and my personal life to this day. Let me give you two examples that come to mind immediately. One is when I would be with him for a briefing or something like that, it was always tape recorded or there would be assistants there. And afterwards, those things that were at the level of policy would be written up and sent to him for approval. And the more I saw that, the more I realized that this factor of policy the way you run your business. What works is institutionalized in writing into the business. I do that to this day. In fact, I don't have my tape recorder on my desk anymore, but for many, many years in many of the companies that I grew, there was a tape recorder on my desk. And when somebody came in or had a question or I had to do a briefing, it was on. Why? Because you never know when you're going to talk about a policy. You know, it may have sounded like a regular conversation, and then they asked a question that I never looked at before. I said, you know, that's interesting, the way we want to do that from my experience. And then later, I would have it all typed up, and boom, it would be a policy. So hugely important. I have a whole chapter about policy in my book, but Hubbard has written much about that subject, right?
Amazing.
And very important. The other one is time management. And I noticed that he was doing things in segments, meaning, these are not the times, but 9 to 10 was this, 10 to 12 was that, 12 to 2 was that. So it was a kind of focus, you see. And what I deduced from that was a big secret that I would love to share, actually. If you stipulate, if you commit to a section of time to do certain things, it's almost like you've sent out a magical phrase to the physical universe and you don't get interrupted. I've done this many, many times where I don't really have it all together and a call comes in and this happens and that happens because you've sent out a message to the universe which is like, okay, here I am, you know, whatever. But when you sit down and you commit and you say, this is what I'm doing from 10 to 11, not only will you get it done, but you just don't get interrupted.
That's very valuable. I think a lot of people struggle with time management, not just businesses, but just people in general. So,
well, this is a key point that I observed from Hubbard, that you don't manage time, you manage things within a certain period of time. You manage things. See, it's all about motion and particles. And if you put attention on that and you get that done, there's no concern about time at all.
So you have helped so many businesses implement the Hubbard Management System. I'm curious if you have any success stories or any really exciting stories about your journey within helping people that you would like to share?
Well, there are certainly many when you look at the number of years. I did my first paid consultation in 1972. So there's a whole history there. I would say, let me move to even more current because I'm still doing it.
Amazing.
And 2 years ago, somebody came to me, owned a big company, very depressed, having great difficulty, employee difficulties, and by utilizing the Hubbard Management System, which is a fascinating set of tools that enable you to get to what's really happening, and in most cases, it's more than one thing. We were able to take it apart. And one by one, we improved it. One by one, we improved it. And what happened is his morale got better. He got much better employees. And the statistics tripled over the past 18 months. And by the way, this is during the pandemic, okay? And this is a company that people had to go to, right? So this idea that, you know, you can't do something about it and so on, if you have the tools, you can. You can't dig a ditch with a spoon and expect to get somewhere. You know, you need a derrick. It comes to tools. But you know what, Katie, that's not, helping a company is great, and it's great to have the CEO of the company feel better and so on. And of course, it does trickle down because employees feel better about working there and so on. But the biggest point that came to my mind when you mentioned it was a talk I gave in Chicago. And this was a talk about suppression. How a company can get into trouble because they connected with the wrong people. See, it's not so much a matter of what happened. it's who happened. Right? So there were many women in the audience, and when I hit into this area of invalidation, suppression, I was astounded by the reaction. Because what I realized is that there's a tremendous percentage of the population who think it's normal. Okay? That's life. That's what a relationship is about. And it's what I call the dimmer switch. You know, if you turn the light down in this room a little bit, pretty soon we'd get used to that. And that would be normal. And if we turned it down a little more, we'd get used to that, and that would be normal. And after a while, we're sitting here in relative darkness, having forgotten how bright it could be. And this changed their lives. I mean, every one of them were like, whoa, we're going to do this. And of course, the owner got rid of a lot of suppression. What do I mean by suppression? People there who didn't want to be there. People who didn't really want to get the work done. People who were not connected to his purpose. And you've got to kind of work that out. And when you do, things get easier.
That's so true. I see that a lot just in society. You know, you can see how there's like a booming business, you go to it every day, and then you're like, oh, wait, where'd it go?
Right.
I can see how that could be a very big internal issue where there's something rumbling and it doesn't get handled, and then the whole thing crumbles.
Exactly. Look, good things are made to happen. Bad things do not happen on their own. You see?
It's a really good point.
They're also made. So we have to be able to build, and then we have to see where we're getting suppressed or invalidated, and you can't buy it. See? The rule that I share with everybody in the audience, and everywhere I go, is you do not permit invalidation. I met someone who had a really nice company, wonderful woman, and after she said, can I ask you some questions? And I said, sure. And so we talked, and she said, well, I have a problem. I said, okay. And she related this problem, and she was kind of being a victim, right? And I said to her, well, you permitted that. And there was this long pause. Well, what do you mean I permitted it? Well, if it happened to you, you permitted it. And to this day, she was at my birthday party. I had an international birthday party video and all of that. And she was there, and she told that story from Australia. So, you know, it's you do not permit another to put you down or invalidate you, and you never do it to anybody else.
I'm excited for your book. Sounds like people are going to get a lot out of that.
Yes, I think they will. I mean, the book was an outgrowth of all the seminars that I did, and which I started doing very early, and what worked is in the book, right? So it's really been surveyed like crazy, and the elements in there are a great introduction to the Hubbard Management System.
I love it. So tell everybody the name of each of your books and then where they can buy them.
Okay. So the first book I mentioned is called The Natural Laws of Management. And the other book that I just published, and by the way, that book is in 9 languages. So if somebody wants to get it for their friends in Italy or Greece or Russia or whatever, they can do that. And they can get that at www.artemaren.biz, B-I-Z. And then my new book is on public speaking. And that is the art of public presentation, creating positive audience response, because that's what public speaking is supposed to do. And it takes someone from the elements of how to give a talk and how to present and so on, which is so important. There's an entire chapter on communication, and it too is based upon my career as well as what I learned from the Hubbard Management System, and the book is filled with those points, and both books can be gotten from that point.
Amazing. And you're doing an ethics book.
I'm working on that now.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it. So everybody should go to
artemaren.biz.
Is there anything else you'd care to tell us today?
There is a fundamental, Katie, that it would be my ultimate message to everybody watching this. You know, if I put my hand back here, I would say that most people don't know how many fingers I'm holding, right? In other words, if I put it back there and I do that, that's one, right, or two. So I put it back there, and everybody in the audience would be certain that they don't know. Could be one, could be four, could be five, right? If I hold my fist up and I say, how many fingers am I holding? They'd say none. But they know that. Right? So it's pretty obvious, you know that. You don't know how many fingers I have here. The whole message that I'd like to get across is that in the Hubbard Management System, the focus is on the fact that you don't know what you don't know. You know what you know. You know what you don't know. I know 2 and 2 are 4. I don't know that. The thing is, you don't know what you don't know. And this is the big surprise. From the moment you step in to the Hubbard Management System, it's one discovery, one surprise after another. And there's a funny thing about it too. It seems like you knew it. Like, I bet I knew that. Because it's so familiar. Why? Because it's a natural law. And this is the greatest gift that somebody can have, is to be able to step into this world and apply it and then help others.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. So your time is valuable.
Good. Well, thank you, Katie. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of EMA Evolutionaries. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be the first to hear about new episodes. And for more information on this series and your local EMA, visit us online at emaevolutionaries.com.